Hello everyone, this is Heroes Trivia. Welcome back to our subscriber game tournament season 2 as we continue with our round 1 matchup here in group 7 between Trivenicus, who is in the green, versus Loyalist, who is in the red. And taking a look at their draft, we have Huang Fusong, Sun Ce, and Guo Jia for Trivenicus. And the unit choices are pretty balanced and very solid. Defender of Empire, Unbreakable Spear Guard with slightly higher armor, at a pretty fair cost, 6 of them for Huang Fusong, 6 of the Lance Cavalry, sort of a medium tier cavalry with a good trade-off between speed and damage for Sun Ce. Although perhaps I would have preferred one handmade guard in there just to provide that 25% damage resistance for your generals. And finally for Guo Jia, we have 1 unit of the Northern Horse Archer for that splash of fire arrow, and then 4 units of the Qingzhou Infantry, 2 being assault infantry, 2 being spear guards. Decent choice, although not my favorite type of Qingzhou unit. They do have a shield, so that offers a little bit of defensive stat. I think the halberd's just cheaper and better offensively speaking, especially since you already have a good defensive unit in the Defender of the Empire. Then looking at the Han Loyalist side, we have a Liu Chong comp finally entering the game, as Liu Chong was banned in Season 1, and he has been unbanned for Season 2, but no one has used him so far. I still think he's very strong, with the Show of Force ability being this unlimited long-range arrow ability that doesn't have that long of a cooldown, especially if you team him up with someone like Lu Zhi and Huang Fusong, who both have Inspiring Surge in their kit. So it will shorten that cooldown to about 20 seconds, which is actually pretty insane. And the whole idea of this composition, which is one that I actually played against Han Loyalist in our practice round, is we form a very strong and sturdy defensive infantry cluster to protect our generals, and have Liu Chong go in and out of the formation to use his show of force to harass the enemy unit, forcing them to commit to this premium infantry block and take them out that way. The weakness of this formation is the generals are very poor in terms of actual melee combat, so you sort of have to force the enemy generals to get dismounted by your infantry by using formations. So when I actually ran the composition against him, I used different infantry than he did. I did not go with the Imperial Sword Guard because they were way too expensive, and I didn't go with Protector of Heaven because they have fewer choices in terms of formations. I went with mostly Defender Empire by making them unbreakable. Although they're weak in melee, I don't really need them to do much damage in this setup. And then I had Peacekeepers for Liu Chong for a little bit of range to harass the enemy cavalry if they want to get close but don't commit. As this is a very passive comp, you can't really attack with it. You can only poke and harass and force the enemy into you, and you're hoping to rely on Stifling Deluge from Lu Zhi to protect your infantry cluster from any slam ability, as they're extremely vulnerable to that, and you're also counting on the fact that he has Turning the Tide to give them a little bit extra damage. Huang Fusong obviously have Hail of Arrows, and that should be used to try to damage the enemy generals, because you don't really have a good general killing ability. And Show of Force, target enemy unit, target enemy generals, whatever you can, depends on who's stationary, as it is still a single target ability, but it does fire multiple arrows per use. It's a single arrow per shot, but there's 4 waves, I believe, and there's a very good knockback on it as well, so it's very good at stunting enemy generals, unlike things like Heartseeker and Poison Dagger. It's hard to miss all 4. Oftentimes, if you line it up right, even if you miss one, you could probably hit them a couple more times, and then, especially after the first one hit, the stagger from it pretty much ensure another hit. So let's see how this plays out, because it does take quite a bit of micro to toe that fine line of harassing with Liu Chong and doing damage with him, but not going to the point where the enemy will commit really hard on your formation, and you must make sure your infantry is all lined up correctly to protect your generals in that case. So let's see how this one actually plays out. Okay, taking a look, it's no surprise we got a cluster of infantry here for Han Loyalist, as he's going to try to protect his general. Now, he's not in sort of a 360 turtle out formation, he's just lined up, which I'm not sure I'm a fan of. because he's not really protecting the sides. But maybe he intends to move to a different position. But it looks like he probably have to march through some fire because he's standing right in front of the northern mounted archer. It's being told to pull back, which I guess is fair, but Poli could stay around and shoot some fire arrows first before leaving, because these are the only trees which will actually have an effect if you just let them cross without, using this advantage. It's a bit of a waste. The rest of the army, infantry is piled up over here, cavalry in the back with the generals, nothing wrong with that. Let's see how it plays out. And this army is moving to cross the river. I think maybe he's eyeing this clearing right here. But preferably, given that there's no range component to this entire army, somewhere over here would be better. Once again, with his unit choices, the Protector of Heaven I don't prefer because you don't have Turtle. The bonus of the Turtle is something like Hail of Arrows is completely useless if you just have turtled up formations. In this case, you are going to be missing out on that for 2 of your unit types. That ability will also work. I think it's a good use here because it's probably going to come back on when the Hail of Arrow comes. That's another way you can counter Hail of Arrow. But his job is really just to light up the forest. So while the arrows will do nothing, the fire damage, once it does happen, will start doing a little bit of damage. It's not going to hurt that much. They should just quickly cross. That's probably the goal. And as you can see, if you click on any of their units, you see that they're favored against pretty much everything else on there. It's still a decent elite infantry setup. Counters all the cavalry. Defender of Empire, same unit versus same unit. The Qingzhou units are actually going to outperform the Defender of Empire, but the Protector of Heaven and Imperial Sword Guard should do fine against that. Liu Zhong should step up and shoot them. Use Show of Force. Why not use it? It's free. It's unlimited use. It has the same range as your bow. So I think that's a small mistake. There's no threat to the rest of your formation. You see all 3 enemy generals, so you know it's no Yan Bai Hu situation. He's free to just march out a little and start poking now. Honestly, I'm not sure why Han Loyalists have to cross the river in this case. Pulling back has the same exact result. The advantage of having no choice is they have to eventually come to you because you have infinite poke. And there's a lot of small things, like if you are using Stonework during that time, there's absolutely no reason to be in this formation. And you can see the fire damage is still kind of going through, so they lost a few units. Could have marched faster without turtle formation. Alright, now they're forming that little circlet. I mean, around the burning tree, though, it's okay right now, I guess, but... There we go, finally. We're 3 minutes into the match, and we finally used Show of Force, which does tremendous damage. It's actually a really good ability. And it's going to come back on cooldown very quickly, because we have 2 Inspiring Surges here. Now, he's not getting his infantry set up. I think Trivenicus actually could go for a frontal assault, because the weakness of setting up a very nice circular defense is you're only going to have about a quarter of your force facing the enemy. And Hail of Arrow right now would be tremendous against this group in the middle. Okay, at least none of the fire effect are really doing much except for that little bush right there, but that's going to burn out soon. See, it's ready again. Shoot anything. There's no real target that you have to hit with this. He's going out way too far. Look how much damage it's doing to that cavalry unit. It's a ridiculous ability, for sure. But I think the counter is you just attack. You don't let him poke you. You charge in. None of these generals have smash ability. This combination, that's the biggest weakness. He has it up again. Hail Arrow. Incoming. Incoming. Yeah, I don't know about this lining up. That's why Protector Heaven, not a fan. Half of this unit's dead. Almost half of that unit's dead. That's a very proper Hail Arrow. And they left turtle formation. No, they dodged it pretty well. I think he got shot by one because he has 40k health. He got hit once. I think it's 1.6k per arrow. He shoots 4 of them per use. Not a fan of these lineups. I mean, if you want to spread out more. There's no reason why they have to be in a straight line. Because you fill these gaps. Shoot something. Okay, he's microing. I mean, why give up that line? This whole line here, that's turtle formation, I guess. So he's going for the team drill units. Oh, I don't know. This is really confusing. There's 2 more team drill units. I mean, he spread them out enough so that you only get to hit 2 of them at a time. But that's not really his job. You have really good infantry that can beat these. You don't need to use this on this. Use it on the generals. Who's going to kill these generals? He's getting another free shot if he lines it up again. He's being pretty conservative here. And he's trying to find the angle on the Imperial units, probably. Oh, he got it. He shot them. 101, 82. Still on a fire. Alright, so they have different objectives here. Ooh, just gonna miss that. Poke the ones that are not moving. Send all 3, send all 3. Alright, I mean, I still don't understand why they're not spreading these out. They're just letting them get picked off by those hail of arrows. And plus the slam's going to come in the future, so that's 2 solutions to the infantry. This is a waste. Use show of force on these. Use something that's unlimited. They're committing to the attack, which is the proper response to this setup. And the proper response for them is shifting the elite unit up and get the unbreakable unit back, because they're not going to be great in combat. There's so many gaps in this setup. I don't understand why they have to be lined up like this right now. He's Stifling Deluge came in after the order was given. So this unit got hit twice. This unit got hit twice. Really good angles. And they were not in turtle. Oh, decent. Why was it canceled? He was given a different command. So it's trying to get a roar in, but as long as Stifling Deluge is active, not much they can do. The Imperial Sword Guard's been thrown into combat. He just has to be careful to not pull them too far apart, as this active will go away. Protector Heaven's being thrown in here. Yeah, there's no more poking. Stifling Deluge charging in, just commit here. If they can pick off Luger, they can start roaring. He has to stay here. No. He just unleashed all the cavalry. And everyone's back's facing the cavalry. It's still a general fight right now, but the cavalry should, start charging. They gave up the flank. Oh gosh. They gotta roar off on this side. Now most of the Defender Empire is not gonna care, but those injured Imperial unit and the Protector of Heaven, they're done. And that was the trump card. Got completely wiped out by the enemy. Now, oh gosh, the roar got him. That's why he's perfectly recovered, because the roar wore off. But as long as this cavalry sticks on him, he's never bouncing back again. Luger also got peeled off. He's using it. I mean, this should be done earlier against the Qingzhou units, not the Hail Arrow. Hail Arrow should be trying to aim the general. He is getting turning the tide because there is a couple routed units. But in this case, Sun Tzu could come back. Just have this cavalry stick on him, it's fine. Here comes. I don't know what target he was picking. This guy? Because that felt like self-inflicting harm right there. By the way, turtle formation is great against range, but look what it does to your melee attack rate. After you get in combat, end it. I mean, Liu Chong trying to shoot unbreakable unit at this point, not really worth it. There's also a couple units that bounce back, but not getting micro back into the fight. They could actually flank right now and actually help win the infantry fight. Yep, the cavalry has done the chase down. You take double damage when you're in the routed state, so easy to kill with just a cheap cavalry. There's also over pursuit over here, right? He has one of the units selected and he's getting pulled off the fight. There's a lot of, unit that's bounced back or that's done their job, that's not getting pulled back into the fight. Oh. Loyalist realized he had infantry coming back to the fight. Liu Chong's trying to cut around, see if he can find an angle to get some shot, but like, what unit is he gonna really kill? I think he can try to kill the generals. Sun Tzu's gonna start slamming. Sun Tzu should get killed. He's got dismounted. That's actually perfect. Start cutting away from him. Don't be next to him. Don't be next to him. Yep. Oh, run. Run. Oh, he's got distracted. Yep, the flank has come in. So that was good. But now I think he's going to do a Flame of the Phoenix. We got the flank of the flank. Everyone recognizing they have units elsewhere. When are we going to do Flame of the Phoenix? Is it because, maybe because Ludra's next to him? He's getting shut down for the cooldown. That's why he's chasing him. I mean, we also got the Wisdom River being applied. There we go. He's out of range. Get that huge slam. Doesn't matter how good your infantry is. Just a bloody mess after that. Alright, Ludra's been chased off, and Liu Chong's turned into just a commander with a sword. The flank worked. They killed all the units right after the flank happened. So if they can get a couple more flank off, but the problem is they have one general left and he's not doing so hot. There we go. Look at the knockback on that. But unfortunately, as the only general left, Guojia just had to stick next to him. He will never use the ability again. And he surrendered, actually, instead of seeing all his unit get slaughtered. That's perfectly fine. I think it was just... The really puzzling decision is the line of infantry. Like, certainly, before that first hail of arrows, you could be like, sure, I, didn't pay attention, kept my infantry in a straight line. One hail of arrow later, when it killed literally half of the first one in the impact, there's like 60 death, 50 death, and like 30 death. How could you let that happen a second time and then a third time? There was one line shot on these, there was one line shot on these, and there was one diagonal shot. At that point, they should just be scattered around. There's no enemy range, so the turtle formation was for what purpose? I don't understand. You could put your best unit, facing the enemy. Clearly, their infantry is coming from this direction. The 2 Imperial Guard should just be angled here and here, and everyone else scattered around in a big circle, and then keep poking with your show of force. Don't be shy against enemy unit. If you can get a shot on enemy general, great, but they move around too much, just shoot the enemy unit. Shoot the Qingzhou unit. Shoot ones that can route. So that just never happened. Hail of Arrow was used on a pair of Qingzhou unit and then a single Qingzhou unit. In this case, you probably shouldn't have done that. It probably should have been better saved for enemy generals. I think that was kind of what was lacking in this case. And also the major decision to pull that one last defender of Empire from here to join in a fight on the side. I mean, part of that reasoning was because he lost so many infantry in the middle. Like, he legit lost, like, out of those 5 units, I think 3 of them were pretty much, like, in terms of quantity, 3 of them were wiped by the 3 hail of arrows. So he was lacking unit to fill up the gap. Well, he never even tried to make a full circle or octagon shape defense, which I think is very necessary. So yeah, picking premium units, getting countered or getting picked on by enemies who spot the weakness in the setup is pretty costly. And as we look at the damage figures, not surprising, Huang Fusong for Trivenicus did tremendous damage. Absolutely decimated these 5 units who are vulnerable. These who are not vulnerable, obviously, you don't aim at them because if they're in turtle. As a matter of fact, I only think 3 of them, the 3 that were facing the enemy infantry were in turtle, and the 3 that weren't facing the enemy infantry were in spear guard, which is an odd choice because there were no range units except for this guy who was not going to do much damage anyways. Look how many kills this unit have scored, because there's only 30 of them. That's not a lot of damage. And yeah, just odd choice in the defensive setup. Liu Chong could have done more early on. The first 3 minutes of marching up could be Liu Chong sniping this unit. And in 3 minutes, you can snipe him a lot of times. It's about 20-second cooldown with both of them with Inspiring Surge. And I think they need to stay together with him for that purpose. He should be the only one poking. You don't need to run him up to a line of turtle unit to try to find an angle of the hail of arrows on these Qingzhou units. It's just not worth it. The cooldown reduction on him is much better. Have him shoot the Qingzhou unit from pretty far away, because it's close to single target only anyways with your hail of arrow. Kind of defeats the purpose at that point. And by pulling that last defender of Empire, it sort of enabled the 6 cavalry, or else they had nothing to do, because they could never really enter that formation from the front. But if they enter from the, if there's a hole, and then once they get in, everyone's facing them to the rear, and that was pretty devastating. The roar got off, which routed the unit, but actually gave a couple of them a chance to flank attack, which helped clear some of these. You can see a couple of them actually got completely destroyed. But overall, after Huang Fusong got the roar, so he was not unbreakable, he was chased down. That was the proper use of cavalry and the roar for the morale damage. Basically, Lu Zhi had a very tough job of shutting down those abilities, and that's how the battle ended. I still think Show Force is very strong, but I do agree with my decision that it doesn't need to be banned. If you get the armies clashed together, it's very hard for him to find a use for it. The longer you can poke, the better. So the decision to march the entire army across the river to get closer distance might not be the best decision. You want to be in this nice sweet spot where your army is close enough for you to fall back to if they start chasing you, but also, keep them at a distance where the enemy infantry can't approach you. So it's even better if enemy infantry moves up and you start shifting back to keep that distance. You want to operate in sort of this no man land where you have the single range weapon to harass the enemy, but they can never really fully commit with anything but cavalry, which can't really fight that. And then their infantry never gets into the fight, and you just keep poking and poking and poking until you get them down, because it's unlimited use, which is the power of show of force. But that's obviously very micro intensive, and that's perhaps why when I run this exact comp, Huangfu Song will be having 6 of these as well, because I can leave all of them in turtle, and I know I don't have to worry about any hail of arrow. I only have to worry about poison volley. But if you run into Yan Bai Hu, bad situation, you can at least spread out your unit so that he can't hit more than 2. Obviously, paying for all these premium infantry only to see them get completely wrecked by 3 hail of arrows is a losing formula here. So congratulations to Trivenicus as he moves on, and he will face Yulia in round 2. So we'll see you guys then. Bye!